Hi, I'm Kate. This is Kiri, and today we are talking about the pouches that go with the Säker Muse or Säker Lander harness. So Säker sent us this Muse harness with the pouches and a nice leash early this year, so in the spring when Kiri was a little bit younger. She's now almost 11 months, and so we have been able to start having her wear the pouches with some really lightweight knit. And it's been really nice to get out on the trail with them and try them out. So my initial impression of the pouches is pretty good. I really like the easy pull zip. It's a nice, easy way to get it open and closed. I like that there's kind of a stretchy kind of divider in the middle, so you can put things into a separate side. Well, so you can divide them. They're a nice size. So I have the extra small Muse harness for Kiri. She's worn that size since she was a puppy, and I don't think she'll be getting bigger. So we have extra small. So if you have a bigger dog, your pouches might be bigger than this. But they're fairly ergonomically designed, nice shape on them. And they do have a nice stretchy buckle that goes underneath the dog to keep them from bouncing up on the sides when the dog moves. Kiri and I have had the pouches out on the trails a couple of times now, and overall I've been pretty impressed with how they have worked. They've stayed fairly centered on her body, although there's been a little bit of twisting side to side. That could potentially be better if I tighten the harness on her a little bit, but as it sits now, there's a little bit of rotation side to side. I have put some lightweight again in them, and they don't seem to pull too much more when I have them evenly weighted. It stays pretty nice and centered. You may notice that the pouches are currently a different color than the harness is. And that is mostly because we've been using the harness since we got it, and it's been out in a lot of sunshine. It's been in a lot of water. It's been washed in my washing machine, and the pouches have mostly stayed inside. So one of the things that is interesting to note is just that this material is fading quite a bit. It's almost more of a blue color than a teal color on the harness itself, whereas the pouches that haven't been used as much are the original Skeena teal color. When Kiri is out walking on the trail, when she runs and moves a little bit, I do notice that they sit a little bit further forward on her than I have had some other pouches. And so when she makes a big movement with her shoulder, it kind of pushes into the edge of the harness in this area here. That being said, it is better for dogs to have the weight more over their shoulders than it is to have it on the middle of the back. So that's not horribly problematic, but it does just restrict her shoulder movement a little bit. Again, when I'm holding the harness, you can see like around here. And then here's some videos of her out on the trail and how her shoulder area looks. So this is the first harness with pouches that Kiri has worn, but my previous dog, Glia, has had several different backpack setups. We've tried the Ruffwear Switchbak, the Ruffwear Front Range Pack, and our favorite was the Groundbird Gear pack. Now, Groundbird Gear is not currently making packs, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But I will put in a couple of clips of Glia here with some various harnesses on so you can see how they sit on her. I wish I could put this one on her too to directly compare, but I will get a comparison video on Kiri coming up soon. But while the ergonomic fit and the hi Kiri. But while the ergonomic fit and the sliding from side to side are probably the two biggest things I worry about when choosing a pack, the other thing that I worry about is how much can it actually hold. Now, I find that most of my dogs don't carry too much weight, but sometimes it's nice to put bulky items in their pack to free up space in my pack. So if my dog can carry their own sweater or their boots or, things like that, that's very helpful to me because then I have more room in my backpack for the heavy things. I really don't like dogs to be carrying more than 10 to 15% of their body weight. Dogs really aren't pack animals, at least the ones I have. I think there are, some dog breeds that do better at hauling than others, but my little Australian Shepherd mix is not made to haul big loads. And so we try to keep it pretty light in her pack. So again, if she can carry some bulky items like her sweaters, that's helpful. Now, this specific dog, Kiri, doesn't need as many sweaters, but Glia with her thin coat did. And so she did have more warm weather wear that we brought with on our journeys. So since we've talked about how this harness and pack setup has done a great job of not shifting too much side to side, and it's fairly ergonomic on her, let's take a look at what fits in these packs. All right, so here I have 3 harnesses. So obviously the Säker Muse with the pouches is here in the center. I have a Ruffwear Switchbak over on the right side and the Groundbird Gear pack over on the left side. So they kind of go in order of smallest pouch to largest pouch in this comparison. The Ruffwear Switchbak is a size small. This Säker Muse is a size extra small. And the Groundbird Gear pack is custom. I believe I got the small bags. I don't know that I have the size in it. Yeah, okay. So now let's see what fits in the Säker pouch and kind of see if it's practical. So one of the things that I'll sometimes have a dog carry is a spare leash. This is Säker's leash. And it fits nicely in one of the pouches. Here's a dog bowl, a collapsible one. Now, obviously, if we were actually backpacking, Kiri would not be having lopsided amounts in her pouches. But just this is for purposes of how much can they hold. Let's say we wanted to bring a tennis ball with to play with at camp. Would that fit? Yep, that fits nicely. Maybe a couple of dog boots if the terrain is bad. Kiri doesn't always wear all 4 of them, but I'll sometimes bring a couple in case of injury. Now, we do oftentimes use the dogbooties.com boots, which are much flatter. These ones are dirty. We obviously just use them out on the trail. They need to go into the washing machine, but they're flat. They're easy to put in. So let's put in 2 Dog Booties boots and 2 of these Ruffwear boots with the traction. These are the winter style ones. See if that all fits. Yeah, it does. Well, let's say instead of a spare leash, we were interested in having Kiri carry some of her own water. Säker doesn't have their own hydration pouches for the pouches, but these are some Ruffwear ones. They're 0.6 liters. This one is not fully filled right now. This is the amount of weight that I was having Kiri carry around while she was wearing the Säker pouches. It's about 4 ounces in there, so nothing too crazy. But this one is nearly full, so let's stick this one in. Great, that fits. Here's a good look at how those pouches are sitting. It's, again, more weight than Kiri will carry, but there we go. I've tried some dog beds. This Klymit Mountain bed is one that I've taken out on the trail. It's an inflatable one. So let me take the water out and see if the Klymit Moon bed will fit. I'm gonna think this is a no, but yeah, that's a no. Now, this does fit in the Groundbird Gear pouch, so these are kind of nice, the Groundbird Gear ones. I really wish she still made them because they're top load like this and then they roll down. So that goes there and that does fit. And then any extra space that I don't need, I can just roll and clip. But so Moonbed does not work in the Säker, but it does work in Groundbird Gear. And then another question is, how about a jacket? Okay, that first one was a winter jacket. So maybe let's start with a rain jacket. All right, that does fit. Very nice. Rain jacket in easily. All right, let's try the winter one. That is going to be a no. So that's again something that could have fit in this Groundbird gear. Just because of the way these pouches are shaped, you can stuff it in better. But it still would be a lot, even for the Groundbird gear. I don't know that that would seal down. Have to really get it compressed and maybe loosen the bottom there. I just got some dog bags too. Obviously those fit easily, and you can even put those in the little compartment, the little separation spot. So we've compared the Säker Muse to the Groundbird gear and shown how the Groundbird gear pouches are bigger. But it's interesting to also compare the extra small Säker Muse with pouches to the Ruffwear small Switchbak. A couple of the things that I would carry around on a day-to-day basis is a water bottle or a food bowl, either one. That just barely fits in there. And this has dog bags in it now, so let me move that out and get that out. And you can see that it fits with room to spare in the Säker Muse pouch. And then here's a water, which does fit in the Switchbak, but you do have to do a little bit of arranging to get it there. So there it fits. But fits in easily in the Säker Muse. So little comparison there. These pouches are a little bit bigger than these. And again, this is an extra small here to a small on this side. But these are both the sizes that fit Kiri right now. One thing to notice is when you fold this guy over, you can see how the cutout for the shoulders is a little bit higher. So this does flop down on the shoulder a little bit more. Let's put them both on Kiri so you can see what I mean. Hi, Kiri, can you stand? Girl. All right, so there's that clip to keep these from. And here again, you can see that when this leg moves out, if it slides at all to one side or the other, it's a little bit over her shoulder, but overall she has pretty good clearance there. Good range of motion. Yes, like that. Yes, good. Nice job, Kier. Here. So those are pretty nice, but yes, just a little bit on top of her shoulder there. All right, let's take this one off. And we can't forget this clip here. Oh, did I mention these have draining holes? The pouches can drain here if they get filled with water, which is really nice. And then, of course, this Säker Muse can come all the way off without her having to pull it over her head. All right, let's get the Ruffwear Switchbak on. Can you get back up? Good girl. All right, you put your head in. Good girl. There we go. And so she has not worn this one out on the trail yet. This one we've just had on for sizing inside. So let's see if we can get her to stand up instead of lay down. Can you stand? Nice, good. So it's a little bit further off her shoulder. So this maybe needs to be a little bit narrowed, sitting down the point of her shoulder too much, but you can see she has more room to the side. And let's get her to look towards you guys. Good, nice. There you can see the other side. So just a little bit more room, a little up higher, but these are smaller pouches. They also don't have the full chest panel. So if you need to do any lift support, which this way, you need to do any lift support, it cuts into her belly a lot more than the Säker Muse would have been with a full panel. And then of course, this one, when you take it on and off, does have to come over her head. Good. So what are my favorite features of this harness and pouch setup? Well, I love that these are removable pouches. They're easy to put on and off, and you can have your dog running around in just the harness or add the pouches when you want. So that's fantastic. I think the whole thing's been relatively ergonomic, doesn't switch too much side to side. The packs really don't bounce much at all, and they're a nice shape, appealing in color. I do wish that the color hadn't faded so much on the harness itself so that there wasn't as much contrast there. And I'd also like to see a little bit more room for shoulder movement up here in the front of the pouches. But all in all, a really nice setup. And if you're interested in learning more about the harness itself, please check out my Säker Muse harness review. We have the Muse. The Lander wasn't out at the time that Säker sent us this equipment. But the Muse has been wonderful for us, and you can tell that this harness has gotten a lot of wear. So thanks for watching, everyone, and happy hiking with your dogs.